Battle pet behavior should be slightly changed so that ranged battle pets don't move before attacking, because they never have to move to attack. Currently, they move despite not needing to, which is virtually always worse than if they hadn't moved. The primary benefit gained from this change would be an increase in design space. A secondary benefit would be a perceived increase in clarity for the community regarding how battle pets function. Lots of people want this change to be made, and, if made, it wouldn't break anything. First of all, I appreciate that Counterplay participates in these discussions where possible and explains design decisions, so let's make sure those are clear from the start. The intention seems to be that battle pets like to be in the thick of combat, and that's why ranged ones still move toward their targets despite not needing to. The battle pet maxim intended by Counterplay and currently active in the game is, quote, "Is a target next to me? If yes, attack. If no, move and attack," end quote. This is certainly true and consistent, and as you continue to read, you need to keep in mind that the current battle pet behavior is intentional. It was a deliberate design decision. However, the community seems to resonate with a slightly different maxim. Quote, "Is something within my attack range? If yes, attack. If no, move and attack." End quote. What I meant above by a perceived increase in clarity is that, regardless of Counterplay's intention that current battle pet behavior be intuitive, the player base finds the latter of the two behaviors mentioned above more intuitive. You simply would not want a ranged minion to move closer to its targets. And the fact that battle pets ignore this and move closer to their targets is aggravating to players. It can still be good design when things are aggravating to players, if those things are the way they are for the good of the game, but I'm arguing that, unless that's true, it's bad design. This means I'm also arguing that the original design intention from Counterplay's end doesn't matter if it doesn't benefit the game. Simply preserving a vision of how something was planned to be does not warrant damaging the game it's part of. Here's why it damages the game. The difference between the two battle pet behaviors we're discussing only matters for two current battle pets, namely Ace, which is a Songhai 1-2 for 1 with ranged, and Ion, which is a neutral 2-3 for 3 with ranged and deals double damage to generals. Minions with ranged have their stats balanced lower so they aren't overpowered, considering their ability to attack without taking damage back. Likewise, battle pets normally have their stats balanced higher so that they aren't underpowered, considering their compulsion to attack each turn they're able to, and their inability to choose what they attack. But putting those two things together creates a conflict. The balancing for ranged minions, their lower stats, becomes a disproportionate weakness when they're forced to move toward enemies rather than not moving at all or moving away from enemies. Ranged battle pets do not benefit as much from their status as battle pets to gain higher stats, because that could be very situationally overpowered. Yet, their status as ranged minions still must confer a detriment, lower stats, which is always magnified because they are battle pets that must move closer to their targets. This is an interesting design space oubliette. Our proposed change to battle pet behavior would neatly fix the above problem. If ranged battle pets simply never moved, they would still fulfill a maxim that can easily remain consistent across all battle pets. The two behavioral maxims at the beginning of this section are functionally identical except with ranged battle pets, so there's no problem there. Additionally, being a battle pet is still a detriment to a ranged minion with the new behavior, as a player would prefer to move their ranged minions away from enemies, but they won't be able to. However, with this new behavior, the stat weakness of a ranged minion is not compounded, instead merely being balanced out by its status as a battle pet. Being a ranged minion and being a battle pet are now more equally weighted in how they affect a minion's overall power, and are more consistent overall. Being a battle pet is now not disproportionately bad for a ranged minion relative to a minion without ranged. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, it's easier for the player to understand the new maxim than the old one. The problem with ranged battle pets moving toward their targets is that it's objectively bad for them to do that. Other battle pets aren't always objectively worse, they're just not as smart, and the playmaking potential of battle pets is in the player's capability to set things up so that their battle pets don't have to be smart to be effective. When this is done correctly, battle pets don't move disadvantageously, and their increased power level becomes a big asset. For this playmaking potential to be a significant factor, battle pets need to behave ostensibly helpfully. They can't do anything objectively bad. Tactically, there are turns you might rather that your battle pets didn't attack, but their attacks almost always provide some benefit, even if you could have gotten a greater benefit by controlling them manually. Ranged battle pets aren't like this, though, as it's almost never beneficial for a ranged minion to get closer to an enemy. All of this is to say that, once you play with battle pets, you end up thinking of them as less intelligent minions, not strictly worse minions, and that's when they're the most fun. If you play intelligently, you can often make them act as though they aren't battle pets. But this is not true for ranged battle pets, which can virtually never act as though they aren't battle pets. This is dissonant to players, and making it otherwise would have no negative consequences that I can think of. Note that ranged battle pets literally try to make sure their keyword doesn't do anything. They behave in the way that maximizes the chance that their other card text will be irrelevant. This particular point is obviously not a good design choice, and it is not fun. Ranged battle pets will remain impossible to balance without extremely complicated card text, unless their behaviors change as suggested, and all of the other effects of that behavioral maxim change would be positive. The overall argument for counterplay to consider is that, although the original maxim for battle pet movement is consistent, the community expected and desires a very similar maxim that could also be consistent and would increase design space. I think the philosophy behind leaving things as they are is that nothing is broken, which is technically but not intuitively true. Finally, if the game can be improved by making this change, and it makes more sense to a lot of the player base, and it increases design space, but we're not going to get the change, I'd like to know why not. I'm totally open to a good reason for holding back the change, but I don't see one. As previously stated, the idea that it's just the way counterplay envisions battle pets isn't a good argument on its own. If that's the only reason why, without further explanation, I still want to hear that, although I admit that I'll be left befuddled. Is there maybe a hidden long-term design benefit to the current behavior that we're missing? Is there a concern that making this change would be too much of a buff to ranged battle pets? Ace and Ion seem fair and possibly playable with this new behavior. Please discuss. At worst, we'll all flex our game design muscles a little. At best, we'll either understand the game a lot better by finding out why things are the way they are, or make the game a lot better by changing them. Thanks for listening, and let me know if you want to hear about any other Duelyst related topics. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.